Hey everybody, I'm Mike and this is Entertainment Junk. And today we'll be doing something special. We'll be reviewing some metal. Some metal that is twisted. Twisted metal. We're going to do a review of twisted metal. Before I start, I just want to say if you haven't watched the show yet or you're currently in the middle of watching it, no worries. This is a spoiler-free review. So, Twisted Metal is based off the video game of the same name. The game, which first debuted back in 1995 on the Sony PlayStation, had a bunch of different drivers coming together to compete in a vehicular combat tournament where the winner would be granted any wish they desired. I mean, there's a bit more to it than just that, but pretty much that is the game in a nutshell. So I would consider this first season more of an introduction / origin story for some of the characters. Which brings us to the character of John Doe, played by Anthony Mackie, who is pretty much a delivery driver in this post-apocalyptic world, going from one walled city to another, picking up and dropping off supplies, while attempting to avoid all the crazy people, killers, bandits, and whoever else is on the highways and byways in the wasteland outside of the city. After coming off his most recent delivery, John strikes up a deal with Raven, who is the Chief Operations Officer of New San Francisco. She pretty much tells him if he can retrieve and return a package within 10 days, he will be rewarded citizenship to the city of New San Francisco. And so he sets out on what he's hoping to be his final mission, with plans of living the good life upon his return. You know, when the series was first announced, I was somewhat optimistic, but I kept my expectations low. When the trailer dropped though, oh boy, it was looking like it was going to be one of those shows that was just destined for failure from the start. So by that point, my desire to even want to see the series in its entirety, it was damn near gone. But I figured I would just go ahead and give it a watch anyway and see how far I could get before everything starts turning to shit. And you know, by that point, I would just go ahead and tap out. The first 3 episodes in though, I must say I was pleasantly surprised. There were some sluggish moments here and there, along with some questionable decisions being made by some of the characters that left me scratching my head, but overall, it kept me entertained. And before I knew it, I had made it through the entire season. And you know what? I'm happy to report it was actually better than I expected. Now you can tell this show was done on a smaller budget when compared to something like Loki or The Last of Us. So of course there would be some limitations. Something like the visual effects, for example, weren't the best at certain moments during the season, but they make do with what they have, and it never really gets in the way of the story. You can also tell these actors were having fun playing some of these characters. I mean, the energy is there even when some of the jokes don't hit their mark. The back and forth between John Doe and Quiet, played by Stephanie Beatrice, I can say I didn't really care for at first, but it grew on me as the season went on. I also thought they did a solid job on Sweet Tooth, who was physically played by Samoa Joe and voiced by Will Arnett. Now, the video game version of Sweet Tooth is much more disturbing and violent than what we got here. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, this one is very disturbing and dangerous too, but he's also a bit more approachable, a bit more comical and unpredictable, which perfectly fits the tone in this version of Twisted Metal. In some of the later episodes, you start to learn more about some of the characters through flashbacks. Personally, it was a mixed bag for me. I thought some of the flashback scenes were pretty good, while others were a bit off, maybe a bit rushed, and just could have been done better overall. But I do appreciate giving us some backstory, which allowed us to see what their life was like before everything went belly up and what they were doing prior to the start of this story. Now, if you're a big fan of the Twisted Metal video game series, you're probably not going to care much for this show, at least in the early goings, which is totally understandable. I would say the Twisted Metal that you may be more familiar with, well, you don't really start to see glimpses of that until you're about more than halfway through the season, which I feel was done by design. I mean, come on now, think about it. The last Twisted Metal game came out back in 2012, and since then, the series has remained dormant for the most part. So I feel like the direction for this season was more about introducing this world to an audience that the majority of is probably unfamiliar with the game and its lore, along with planting seeds for the future and just some good old character development. Now, with all that being said, my overall rating for this first season of Twisted Metal is a 7 out of 10. Now, are there problems that need fixing? Definitely. But I feel they did more things right than wrong. The pacing was solid, the energy was high, and I was entertained for the majority of it. Honestly, this one really surprised me. If they do get greenlit for a season 2, I'm all for it. Really, I was expecting this to be an all-out disaster, but I ultimately ended up liking it more than I thought I would. Not bad, Twisted Metal. Not bad at all.
And that is Twisted Metal. I really did enjoy my time with this show. It didn't last, it kind of like it was nice. It was an easy binge. It didn't really take long to get from episode 1 to 10. And I was thoroughly entertained all the way through. So yeah, I'm totally looking forward to a sequel, a season 2 if they happen to do it. But if not, hey, this is fine too. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more content from us, subscribe to the channel. But until then, I'm Mike, and I will see you guys in the next video.